You're listening to the Launchcast, the podcast about leadership, business, life, and growth with me, your host, George Andriopoulos.
It's like food for your ears.
Fabrizio, you know what? We always talk about leadership here. We never talk history. And I know that you are a student of history. So let's talk a little history. Can you name one important thing that happened in 1969? Nothing? Man, you are the worst. I'm going to give you a few. In 1969, Woodstock happened. The 747 jumbo jet made its debut. The Beatles had their last public performance. And Swanson Health started to produce quality vitamins and supplements right from the heart of America in 1969. Guys, this episode is sponsored by Swanson Health. Fabrizio, give me some 60s pop rock stuff. Yeah, that's kind of Beatles-y, walk in the park music. Swanson Health is the only company to offer the full spectrum of wellness products for mind, body, and home. From quality vitamins and supplements to cruelty-free beauty items to eco-friendly home products. Swanson Health is here to keep you healthy. And how do they do that? They back everything by strict quality standards with the Swanson Quality Code. Swanson brand vitamins and supplements are crafted in the USA, made with unsurpassed purity and potency. If you want to try any of Swanson Health's great products for yourself, use code LAUNCH20 for 20% off on swanson.com. That's the Launchcast very own promo code, LAUNCH20 on swanson.com. Now, Fabrizio, do something right. Shut the music off, man. Come on.
At this time, I'm going to ask that you fasten your seatbelts.
Launch sequence.
Launch sequence activated.
Launch sequence activated.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Woo! Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Launchcast. See that? 31 episodes, I still have goosebumps. Episode 131. We call this one Put a Sock in It, and you're going to find out why. It's a good one today, guys. I am so excited. We are back to interviews here. But first, you know what's coming. It's the Launch Dad himself bringing you your favorite podcast on the planet. We're talking leadership, business, life, and growth as the beat drops.
Into the black hole.
Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Episode 131 of the Launchcast. We have had a few heavy episodes. We just finished up with our 4-part series called How to Be a Human Being. If you haven't listened to those, I encourage you to check out those episodes. We did a 4-part series. 2 of those episodes were panel episodes where we talked about race. We talked about the conversations going on right now. Incredible transformational growth for me alone during those episodes. The talks that we had, the conversations were just so eye-opening. And so I encourage everybody to check that out. But we wrapped that up last week with episode 130, and I promised you we are back to our regular interviews, although that conversation continues. It continues, and we are doing stuff on the back end here. We are still working with some of the groups that we talked about. I'm mentoring and helping a few groups strategize as we navigate through this, and we're going to keep leading, right? But right now, let me bring these 2 beautiful faces up on the screen. There they are. My guests for today, we have John Cronin and Mark Cronin from Left to Right. Guys, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah,
thank you.
We're glad to be here.
That's awesome.
This is awesome for me. I don't know about you. This is like, this is just another afternoon for John. Like another interview, another podcast. No big deal.
We're very fortunate. Lots of people want to hear from us. So we've done several already this week. One in England, one for a group in Florida. And here we are back on Long Island.
Amazing. I'm going to do the quick bio, guys, and then we are going to jump in. So John Cronin and his dad, Mark X Cronin, are the co-founders of John's Crazy Socks, a social enterprise with a mission to spread happiness. In the years that they have been in business, they bootstrapped their startup into a multi-million-dollar company with sales in over 80 nations. That's 80. John may have Down syndrome, but he always says Down syndrome never, what, John?
Never hold me back.
Never holds him back. More than half of their employees have a differing ability, and every day John and Mark show what their colleagues can do. They are fierce advocates for the rights of the differently abled and have testified twice before the U.S. Congress and spoken at the United Nations. John and Mark are winners of the EY Entrepreneur of the Year and the Monsignor Thomas J. Hartman Humanitarian of the Year Award. They are members of the U.S. State Department Speakers Bureau, and they have addressed audiences across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, speaking before social service agencies, fundraisers, universities, and corporations. I have 2 more pages of bio, but that covers more than most people can accomplish in a lifetime. I want to mention that I was introduced to you guys by our friend Dave Thompson. It sounds like Autism and Spectrum Foundations. He saw that our missions aligned a little bit, and we actually talked about working together for the Special Olympics this year, which we'll get into later. And unfortunately, because of COVID, that was canceled. But onward, right? We'll figure it out. So, guys, thank you again for being here. So I'm so excited. I can't even tell you how excited I am.
Well, this is very cool. This is a great show you have.
It's wonderful.
Ah, thank you. I'm going to have you do some ads for me, John, later, if you're willing. I want to throw a couple of numbers out before we begin. Now, for those that are not local here or nationally that have heard of John's Crazy Socks, I want to throw out a couple of numbers. We're going to get into more details later, but I want to give you some metrics of this social enterprise. They have created 23 jobs as of the info that I had. I'm sure it's more by now. 19 held by people with differing abilities. They've raised over $350,000 for charity partners. They earned over 27,000 5-star online reviews, 230,000 Facebook followers, videos viewed over 10 million times. Unbelievable. When I saw these numbers, guys, what I do for a living besides the Launchcast, besides my charitable stuff, is I'm a consultant. I own a management consulting firm. And so business is my life. And just seeing these numbers for a business that's a social enterprise that has the mission that you guys do, it blows my mind. It really does. It's unbelievable. I want to start with John, and we're going to start this interview as we start every single interview. John Cronin, are you a leader?
Yes, I am. I am a leader. I am a company. My title is Chief Having Officer.
John, tell me a little bit. What do you think for you? What does it mean to be a leader?
I am a leader because I follow that I'm leader that I'm.
When you show people what's possible, right?
Right. I'm sorry. I'm making people showing possible, and I make customers very happy.
Yeah, you do.
And I am so fortunate. I'm working with my employees and different disabilities.
And you're a role model, right?
I am a role model because I am representing for Down syndrome.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Absolutely. Mark, I watched yesterday and briefly, and my kids and I are going to catch up with your happiness show. at some point this weekend, but we watched yesterday the live that you guys had yesterday on Facebook, and you said something really important. You actually shouted out that you were going to do this interview, which my kids were so excited to hear. You said that in the Spreading in the Spreading Happiness show yesterday, you said John is a leader because he stands up, he shows what people can do, he supports people, and he shows a way forward. How important is it to the mission of what John's Crazy Socks does to show a way forward for people with differing abilities?
Well, that's really the essence of what we're doing. It is very important for us to create jobs and hire people with differing abilities, but that's not enough. We want to show the world. And that works in a couple of different ways. One is to show other people, look what folks like John can do. Look what our colleagues on the autism spectrum can accomplish. And that's showing businesses and government leaders, look what's possible. The other way is to show individuals about possibilities for them. So we have school tours, we host work groups.
Right.
That's we do a lot of speaking engagements, but we spend a lot of time meeting with schools and programs so we can talk to people with different abilities to say, yes, you can, that there are things possible. And that's essential to us.
Yeah, that's amazing. John, you have a pretty big family, right?
I do. I had the best family.
The best family. You have two brothers, Patrick and Jamie, right?
Yes.
And mom and dad?
Jamie, my brother. Jamie is my middle brother.
Uh-huh.
Patrick is my oldest brothers.
Did you want to say anything else? Want to add anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I want to put to my brother, my brother Patrick, fiance Emily.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So she'll be joining the family.
Yeah, that could be fun.
You were excited about that.
I'm really excited, and I want one importantly. I never forget my mom,
Uh-huh.
my mother, my roommate mom. I love because I love her because I love my dad. I love my mom.
George, I'll share something with you, which is part of our experience. So we started this back in December of 2016. What day did we open, pal?
We started December 9, 2016.
And we went the lean startup route, right? John had the idea. We said, let's go test it. We bootstrapped it. We put up a website. We got some inventory. The only marketing we did was to make some Facebook videos. And who was in those videos?
I am.
And we were very fortunate. In that first month, really 2 weeks, we got 452 orders. So we learned a few things, right? We learned, one, people want to buy socks.
Two, about socks to me.
Right.
And they're related to me.
They related to you. They liked the fact that we had pledged 5% of our earnings to the Special Olympics. They liked the personal touch. But the one thing that surprised us, we just didn't expect, was we heard right away from people who spoke about John being an inspiration, that John really mattered to them. And we're still having trouble sometimes wrapping our mind around it because to me, John's just John.
Absolutely.
Right? But we need more faces and examples of people with Down syndrome or people with differing abilities who are stepping out as entrepreneurs, stepping out as leaders and showing, hey, look what's possible. So that, I'd like to believe every time John is in front of an audience, like you're making possible with your show, that it helps change people's minds about what's possible.
And that's what we're trying to do here. John, so you understand the point of this show, right, is we talk about one thing, and that's unconventional journeys to leadership. So that's the journeys that everybody goes through to get to leadership, but that people understand that there's not one path, right? It's not like a formula, like you do A, B, and C, and then you're a leader. Everybody does something different to get to leadership. So when we have different leaders on every week that talk about the struggles, they talk about the bad times and the good times and how they got to where they are today, my hope is that somebody in the audience is listening and hears and goes, oh, I went through that. Maybe I can be a leader. Maybe there's somebody in the audience with Down syndrome that right now is thinking, things aren't looking really good right now, but look at John. Look what John's accomplished, and look how he's helping other differently abled people, right?
Well, I think that's important. Right. Sometimes it's in a comical way, right?
I can say something about that.
Sure.
To me, that I say all the time, I follow my dream because I want this opportunity. I so I can do.
You do, buddy.
Yes.
You do.
You absolutely do. Absolutely.
I'll share kind of a comical moment on that. We do a lot of Facebook Live now, and we take our processes and turn that into content that we go and share. One of the first times we did that was at a trade show at the Javits Center. And we were meeting with different suppliers. And every time we did, I wanted to do a little video of John talking to him. And we had all these people there saying, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't think I can do this. And John would come over and say, it's okay, just follow me. And I think that's a lot of it, John shows what he can do, and it empowers people. And together, between the two of us, we have no special training. We have no government support. There are no special programs. And we're able to go and hire 19 people with different abilities. We're able to go and create jobs. And part of what we try to show people is, look, we're a couple of knuckleheads from Long Island selling socks.
Of course.
And if we can do this, you can do it too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. John, I want to talk a little bit about your journey. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So I did my research on you because you're like famous. You're all over the internet, right? So I did my research. Tell me if all this is right. We're going to start very early. So obviously you were born with Down syndrome, right? And you had 2 operations very young. I read that you had an operation when you were 2 days old that fixed your intestines. And then before you were 3 months old, you had an operation that fixed your heart, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So those were big deals.
Big deals. Big deals. So I have a question for you, John. I know you've heard this story before. Obviously, we can't remember when we're that young, right? I want to ask you, how do you feel now when you hear these stories about when you were a baby and you weren't healthy and your parents went through some heavy stuff during that time, but here you stand now, healthy, happy, and successful. How do you feel thinking back to this whole journey?
I think to me that I'm so lucky because I'm fortunate to have my parents with me because I never without my dad and my mom because they're one I've been through this past 7 years when I'm born, and I'm so happy. I really feel I feel in prison. I have my dad around.
Yeah, amazing. And so, as you grew up, right, you went to, I read that you went to preschool at the Association for Children with Down Syndrome, and then you went to Huntington schools after that. So I grew up in Farmingdale, right near you.
Right.
You had, so this is something interesting I read. You had teachers and aides who you really loved and were very helpful, but you always wanted to show them that you can do things on your own, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Why was that important to you?
because it's put to me that I show possible I can at school, and I come up to me that I tell me that I have to do that, I have to do that, and I try to stop me something, or I try to be protective, and to me, I am very cover of.
You were capable.
I'm cover of, and I show to my age. I show I can do, because I do things by myself and in independent ways.
Well, I can give you some anecdotes.
Yeah.
When he started started kindergarten in Huntington School District, right away they said, "Oh, we're assigning a special ed bus to pick him up." And John said, "Why do I need that? Can't I go on the bus with my brother Jamie?" And we said, "Sure. Why would you need that if you can go on the regular bus?" And then there was an incident later. I guess you were in junior high, and John had not had a one-to-one aide for years. And all of a sudden, they assigned him an aide and said, "Oh, you need an aide to get you to go from one class to another." And John was beside himself, because I can do that. Why do I need somebody else, right?
Right.
I can talk about it from a parent's point of view.
Yeah.
I think a main job of us as parents is to promote the independence of our children. And that's, we have 3 sons. That's John, it's our 2 older boys. And some of that means sometimes you got to let them fail. Sometimes they're going to fall down. But that's how you learn, George. That's how we learn.
Yep.
We did have one incident which was kind of comical. Prior to this, I had an office, worked in Huntington Village, and John would take the bus there after school, and he worked in the office, and he would do shredding for us, and you handled all the mail, and he'd run errands for us from time to time in town. And I get a call one day from the head of special education in Huntington School District, saying, "Mark, you're not going to believe this, but I just got off the phone with a parent who was very upset because they saw John walking around town by himself. And they called the schools to say someone has to talk to that boy's parents because he has to be protected." Now, fortunately, we were on the same page. And Linda Roth, who was the head of special ed, told the parent, "You've got it wrong. This is exactly what we're trying to do. We want people to go and be independent. We want them to go and find their way." Right, buddy?
Absolutely, because I love it.
So let me ask you, John, because this is something I wanted to get into. I had a note here about you taking the big bus to school like everybody else, and I figured that was your decision, right? As I did my research on you, and I'm getting to know you now. One question I have is, do you feel like you wanted to lead other kids with different abilities when you were younger? Was that important to you?
Were you a leader in your class?
Yes, I was.
How were you a leader?
I lived in class because I show my teachers and my classmates. I work so hard, and I get this done.
You used to like to show people how to do things.
Yes.
And one thing you've always done, you've always helped out other people.
I do. I like help. One side I want to share that in junior high, I had a friendship club.
Right.
A friendship club, like we're talking to friends, talk to a class, and meet up, and and playing games of that. It's I'd be like social.
Right. There was also the time in summer school when you decided to organize a talent show, right?
I did.
You want to share what you did there?
Yes. Yeah.
What'd you do?
I do summer school. I work on a talent show. I want to meet the principal. A bit of Ez. And I want to run a talent show. And
you went to him and you said, I have a plan. That's what I want to do. He had a plan, and you're going back and forth. And they called me like a week later, and you'd already gone through several meetings, to say, hey, Mark, we think it's great that you put John up to this. And I had no idea what they were talking about. Because John went and did this on his own, right?
I did.
You went and organized it. The one comment I'd make, George, is, you asked John about leading people with differing abilities. I don't think you ever spoke that way. It was just, these were my classmates.
Yeah.
These are the people I'm dealing with. And it's part of what makes John an entrepreneur is he doesn't ask permission. He'll figure out and go and do things. And sometimes it's comical. There was a time in high school where you showed up and you went to the principal's office and said, I want to meet with the principal. And the people in the office said, well, the principal's busy. Can we pass a message? And John said, no, I want to talk to the principal. And so they made an appointment, which was their first mistake. They should have said, get the heck out of here. But they made an appointment, went up to the classroom, and he told the teachers, I'm meeting with the principal at this time. And they said, what's it about? And he said, it's between me and the principal. So then he goes down to the appointment. And what did he want to meet with about? Well, he wanted to be able to use the school auditorium for a birthday party for himself. And the principal should have kicked him out on his butt, but said, well, you should talk to the student council about that. But he wasn't going to, it's just, I can do this.
Yeah.
And that's part of like how we got started with this business is if you have a disability, you can stay in the school system until you turn 21.
Right.
And that's sometimes known as the 21-year-old cliff. Because when you're in school, you're getting educated and all the programs are in one place and everything's right there. And so now you're educated and you can see the advances in healthcare. You can look at John, the advances in medical treatment. And there you are, you're healthy, educated, and ready to go. And there's a big nothing. So John was in his last year of high school, looking around. What were you trying to figure out? What am I going to do when I'm done with school? What were you looking at?
I look at job, program, and school.
And he didn't see anything he liked.
I don't like those. I don't like those options. I don't like.
And some of that's because of the paucity of options available to people with different abilities. But instead of looking at that as being a problem, John turned it into an opportunity. And he comes to me, and what'd you say?
I said, I want to go into business with my dad. I want to go into business.
Right? So if there's no job out there for me, I'll create one.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good spirit to have.
Yeah, that's amazing. We're actually going to get into that story in a few minutes. I want to wrap up real quick just with schooling. So, John, I get the feeling that you enjoyed school, right?
I did. Can I share something?
Sure.
Can I talk about Flower Hill?
Go ahead.
One thing, something I want to share. I also want to let you know I had pick on one of the kids.
Oh, he didn't really pick on you, but you remember it that way, right?
I remember it that way.
And you're going to tell the story about Jamie?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A really good story to me.
Tell me.
That my brother Jamie, I used to fight during the recess. I outside, and the kid pick on me, and
And he brought down the wrath of Jamie on himself, right?
Yeah.
Right, because, everybody, John, we've all benefited. We've all become better people being around John.
Sure.
But, it's a childhood story, but when he was starting school, I sat down with his older brothers, and I said, listen, we don't really know what's going to happen here, right? We don't know how John's going to be accepted or treated, and not everyone's going to understand. And my eldest son, he looked and he said, well, that's okay, Dad. We'll just talk to him and we'll explain.
Yeah.
And my middle son looked at that and said, that's right. And when Patrick's done talking, if there's still a problem, I'm going to knock him out.
Right? So you had your protectors, right?
It's, but to be fair to Huntington School District, John and his classmates were well accepted. There weren't problems. There wasn't bullying or getting picked on. It turned out to be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And John, when you were in high school, I read that you also attended Wilson Tech at the same time, right?
Yeah, I was. I'm in Wilson Tech program. How many years I'm in Wilson Tech?
You were there 3 years.
I was there 3 years. I took a retailing class. It's helpful to me. I want to learn retailing. I had this business, like I said, when I running the company with my dad.
Yeah.
And it's helpful to me. That I so here Dr. Sock, I can be help teaching retailing class. I work for us.
So this is to me what I wanted to get into with this, because we're gonna take I want you to take your celebrity hat off for a minute and put your businessman hat on now, right? You prepping for your career, your future, whatever it was you were going to do, which wasn't clear at the time. You did this program because you wanted to give yourself the tools to be better, right? To be prepared for the future. Can you tell me what is one of the most important things that you learned in school about your business now that you're running? Something that you use now?
I'm learning that I'm using math. I learn about math, like counting money, and money, and some of the skills that I can do when I go to work for us. Like I went to a different stores. Like like I went to Marshall's, Bob stores, and we go out there like showing that I can take something out, and I cleaning stuff. My skills.
Plus your speech.
And speech, I like that.
You work on your speech a lot, I heard, right?
Right. You learn a lot about speaking, and now you do professional speaking engagements.
Oh, I can share that when I speak, in high school I did. One of my friends, Todd Coven, one of the students, my school, he came from my birthday party. He asked me and my parents that he is valedictorian. He wanted me to give him speech.
He wanted you to introduce him.
I want
at graduation.
I did. I worked with my speech teacher, Miss Clee. Miss Clee, my speech teacher in the high school. She helped me the speech to my friend I introduced.
And you worked really hard for about 2 months.
I did.
You had to learn words like valedictorian.
Yeah.
And then what happened today, right? We're at the football stadium. Thousands of people are in the stands. How'd you do?
It's amazing. I went up to the mic. I was like, Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash. Standing up there. John's like the man in black.
Yeah.
I got something to tell you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell all those out there that have never spoken on a stage. Those that know my show know that I'm a keynote speaker and I'm a TEDx speaker and all that stuff. And I know how much preparation for somebody like me that's been doing this for years. I know how much preparation goes into each speech that I give. And this is a tough thing to do for those out there that don't understand about public speaking. It is a tough thing to do. And to be able to speak to an audience and move them and engage them, man, that takes talent. That takes talent.
We have been very fortunate. We've been doing, until the pandemic, more and more speaking engagements. John works very hard at them, but I'll give him credit. He's got a certain je ne sais quoi in front of those crowds. And he's never nervous. There was a somewhat funny incident. John was invited by the New York Knicks to introduce the Knicks before a game, December of 18. And so December 19. But this is all great. We show up. We're on the court before the game. I was excited. I got to meet one of my childhood heroes, Walt Frazier. But the different announcers are talking to John, and Al Trotwig pulls John aside to try to give him some advice on how not to get nervous and how not to get stressed out. And I didn't have the heart to tell him, like, Al, John never gets nervous. And sure enough, there he is, and standing at center court with 22,000 people.
Right, I was there, and I incredible. My favorite part about that.
What was the line?
You're next.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I wish I could have seen that. Is that on video somewhere?
Yeah,
I have it on my phone.
Okay.
I think we shared it on our YouTube.
All right, I'll check it out.
But there've been other ones. Like, we've been very fortunate with multiple TV appearances, and one of the first ones we had was on Fox and Friends, and they had called up, and we didn't even find out till Saturday afternoon we're going to be on. We had been traveling for 3 days. And they said, show up at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning. So we do. And John, and while we're waiting to go on, John's a little sleepy-headed. So he's he's half asleep in a chair.
Yeah.
And the various hosts are coming by and a producer or two. I can see they're now looking and they're getting a little nervous. Did we make a mistake, booking this kid? And I look at him and say, don't worry. And now it's time to go on. And John lights up like a beacon. And they liked him so much, he's been back on 6 other times.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I did.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We went to a Knick game, by the way. I took my son. My son and I are big time Bulls fans, but my dad was always a Knicks fan, so I always liked the Knicks as well. And my dad saw them win the championship in '69. Willis Reed limping out, the whole deal, right? And we went to go see the Bulls. We had pretty good tickets, and we went really early to see the game. And as soon as they let us in, we get off of the escalator and walk in, and who's standing right there? Walt Frazier.
There you go.
And I was like, oh my God, can I get a picture with my son? And my son had no clue who he was, but I said it to my dad. My dad's like, oh my God. So I want to ask you, John, one more quick question before we move on to Dad for a minute. I know how big of a supporter and an athlete and everything you are with the Special Olympics, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know your brothers played sports, and you've talked about them quite a bit during this. Did they inspire you to get into that?
My brother inspired me that because and my brother my brother played football, and I want to play sports, and I started 2001 when I was 5 years old.
Right, but you wanted to be like them. You'd say that a lot, right?
Like I just talk to my brother.
Yeah. And you played in the Special Olympics, you played soccer, basketball, floor hockey, track, bowling, and snowshoe, right?
Yes.
So have you ever have you medaled in the Olympics? Is that how that works?
Right now I have 1,000 medals.
Well, I don't know about 1,000, but he's got a lot of medals. The way they do it, Special Olympics is real competition. But every race, they have medals.
Yeah.
So every race, you get a gold, silver, bronze medal, and then there are ribbons for the others. So there's real competition. You don't all get the same thing, but if there are 5 heats for the 100-meter, then there are 5 sets of medals.
Yeah.
But John has competed in local events, and you've gone to the state games.
Yeah.
Quite a number of years now for snowshoe, but you went 1 year for soccer, 1 year for basketball, twice for track.
Yeah.
Plus, you're on the Athletes Congress. Right?
Yes, I am.
Unbelievable.
And the biggest thing you do.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Polar plunge.
The polar plunge.
Amazing.
I've been doing that for, I think, 6 years now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I want to ask Dad a couple of questions, and then we'll move on to John's crazy socks, and then the other stuff, the big 3 and all that, and wrap it up. So, Dad, I'm gonna try and not get emotional here because I see the interaction. I've watched the videos and I've spoken to you a bunch of times, and see the interaction with John, and it moves me a lot. You know, as a dad, I have a daughter and a son. I have another kid coming in August.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so, it makes me emotional to see that. I want to ask you first, like the obvious question here is, I'm not even talking about from a business perspective right now, but just how proud are you right now?
Well, I like to use the word I admire him.
Yeah.
And I do, because this is a guy who's always learning, who's always doing. And he's learned some of the secrets, I think, that some people never learn in a lifetime. You want to be happy, do for others, and have gratitude. And John's got that. What can we do for others? How can we take care of others? And just appreciate what you have. So, one of the wonderful things about John is it doesn't matter what you throw at him. He'll just roll with it. There we go. But I say admire because I'm just wary that if I say I'm proud, that somehow that means I had something to do with it. But this is John. John has carved his path, right? But in the end, I'm a proud dad, right?
Yes, you are.
I'm a lucky man. I'm a lucky man to get to work with my son and get to see what he does.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Right?
I never without you, Dad.
Pretty awesome.
You're killing me, John. Come on, man.
You're killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls. Great Sandlot reference. So Dad, so now, Mark, I'm going through this right now where it's the time where, I haven't gone through this in 10 years with a new kid, but the doctor's appointments and everything and all the scary stuff that you find out every single month when you go to the doctor. And so, you think back, to when John was born and John was, not only born with a disability, but a few health things that were going on early. And I know as a father, right, it's onward now. It's how can we make life better for our children? It's what's the next step right now, right? We look onward for love and progress and everything. And so my question for you is, what were your goals for John in life, after you discovered that he had Down syndrome and I don't want to say specific goals.
I understand. It was, there was some adjustment. First, we did not know he was going to be born with Down syndrome. I look back on it, a little curious. So my wife and I were 37 when she had John, and her OB had recommended that she get tested to see if her child would have Down syndrome. And in those days, the only test was an amniocentesis,
right,
which was painful, risky, expensive, and not very accurate. And she told the doctor, no, I don't want it. And he said, well, I'd like to talk to your husband. And I'd kind of like to have been in the room to see what happened after that response. I'm surprised he didn't come out, through the wall or something. But I'm a little surprised at myself because we did talk about it and we both said it didn't matter. And I never choose ignorance. So we didn't know. And there was one thing that happened that day. We found out, and that was okay. My mother-in-law, who had worked at a place called YAI and had worked with people with Down syndrome, she came in and was sitting there, and I know she meant it to be comforting, but she said, there are a lot of things that these kids can grow up to do, like maybe he'd get a job pushing a broom someplace. Mm. And I wept. Because, think about it with your kids, George. Mm-hmm. When they're born, everything is possible. It may be irrational, right? But on that day, they could be the center fielder for the New York Yankees. Mm-hmm. And to be told and to think as we did that, no, there are a lot of things he can't be, was somewhat devastating. In those early days, the only thing we could do was focus on his health. He spent his first 3 weeks in a NICU. I was there virtually around the clock. I'm reading poems, I'm singing songs to him. I remember we got him baptized before he went in for his first surgery.
Yep.
Because we didn't know if he was going to make it.
Right.
Just me and a priest. But to see how he's developed and to learn, you just keep pushing and supporting. John tells me things he wants to do, and I never say no anymore. No matter how crazy it is.
You know better now.
But... and we get asked a lot, well, when he was born, did you imagine he was going to be doing this? When he was born, I had no idea I was going to be doing this.
Yeah.
Or, his eldest brother, Patrick, he's the director of IT for a nonprofit training program. But at night, he steps into one of the remaining phone booths in Manhattan or Brooklyn where he lives, like Superman. Goes in like Clark Kent, and he comes out as an improv actor. He does improv. Well, when he was born, I didn't hold him and say, I hope he grows up to do improv. Right. It's all such a wild adventure.
Yeah.
And we're just fortunate to be there for the ride and to appreciate the way they find their way forward.
Yeah. And that's what was important for me in speaking to you guys. I've watched in preparation for this, not only did my research with information online, but I've watched interviews because I wanted to see what the dynamic was. And, on this show, we tend to not do that same interview that others will do. We want to get to the core of leadership. And so in speaking to you guys, I want to speak to John as the leader. And although I know that you've had success in businesses and in life before this, I don't so much care about that in this interview. I want for other young men and women like John to see the success that they can have if they were in John's shoes, right? And then I want the parents.
Well, I sometimes think John has created hell for some people because I imagine, and it's particularly now hard with the pandemic. But, like last year I was thinking about this. If some kid graduating college and he's home, not sure what he wants to do, and he's kind of home on the couch and the parents are wringing their hands and they're saying, what are you going to do? And then they look and say, look at this kid. He's got $1 million business. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what though?
A little daunting.
It's not chaos though. It's a baseline, right? It's a case study to show others what's possible. And at the same time, I wanted you to represent the parents out there, not just the businessman, that there is hope. There is with love and with embracing situations and with, empowering your children that, man, can we do some great things, and that's what I knew that you would represent on this show today. The one thing that's so cool, and this is the dream, right, for the dad. It's like I own a couple of businesses, and with my kids, the dream is that, like, hey, there's something carved out here, and I want you guys to do whatever you want to do, but there's a place here for you always, right? And that's not about not trusting them. For me, it's like it would be a dream come true to work alongside my kids every day. So it's so cool to watch you guys. I want to ask you that. How is it to spend every day working with this dude here?
Well, let me put that in some perspective. So I have 3 sons. In fact, some of our stage pattern joke is, John comes to me and says, I want to go into business. And I say, oh, I have 3 sons, and this is one I could work with. In fact, my middle son worked here for a while and decided, maybe I don't want to work in the family business, that I need my own space. And it, depends on the relationship. Now, I love my middle son. So it has to be the right combination.
Yeah.
With the 2 of us, part of it is we both know we need each other. I couldn't do this without John. And we're both focused on the mission and on the purpose. And I think when you do that, when you have a mission and a purpose that's larger than yourself, the petty stuff falls away. You don't care about it. Yeah. You only care about where are we going. But John is very easy to work with, right? Pretty good. But yeah, you want your kids to know. You want them to know what they do matters.
Yeah.
One person that we've spoken about a lot in our family growing up, and I would always talk about with my kids, was Rosa Parks. Mm-hmm. And not the kind of, I don't know, the safe version. But, Rosa Parks was 44 years old. She had already been active, and she was just fed up. She was scared, but she was just fed up with how blacks were treated.
Yeah.
And she sat on that bus. She knew what she was doing. It wasn't that she was an old woman tired that day. Oh, she was tired, but she was tired of it all. And she sat on that bus, and she changed history. I took my 2 older boys once to the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis that's located at the Lorraine Motel, mm-hmm. which is where Martin Luther King was killed. Yep. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot. And they have a mock-up of that bus. And I had them sit in her seat so they would understand. They would understand both the possibilities and, in a sense, the obligation to act, to do. And I'm watching them finding their way in the world. They don't get recognized the way John does.
Yep.
But it's pretty wonderful watching the things they do, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And as a dad, I completely understand where you're coming from. I've talked about this on the show quite a few times, but I've had a journey. right now this is my second marriage. I was divorced close to 10 years ago now, when my kids were very little, and I was very successful at what I did for a living prior to that, but something had to change. And so whatever that intervention was that caused a series of events that happened, I learned a lot of lessons over the years. And as I raised my kids and realized that the success that I have in life now, doing it the right way, focusing on what matters, focusing on what makes me happy, what makes us happy as a family, what helps others is so important. And so sharing those lessons with my kids is one of the most important things to me. I talk about my failures. I talk about
that's right.
mistakes.
Let them see the struggles. Let them see the choices, and how you have to align your life with what matters.
Yeah.
You wind up in trouble when this matters, but you're going in a different direction.
Yeah.
And they're not too young. I remember, our particular position in, this would have been on the eve of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, the second time.
Mm-hmm.
And you may remember, this was not many months after September 11th,
Yep.
and the country was all gung-ho. But I was looking at this saying, geez, we're going after the wrong place. It's not about a military victory. It's about what's going to happen afterwards. This is going to be a quagmire. This is going to be bad.
Yeah.
And we went down to Washington, D.C. for a protest, a rally on the mall. And we brought the kids. They were little. We brought the kids. And it was a bitterly cold January day. It was below 10 degrees. And we're standing out there. I remember looking at the White House thinking, I knew enough. This was already decided. It didn't matter how many people were standing out there in the cold, but you had to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And my kids had to see that. They had to see that this mattered, and it wasn't, oh, you have to believe this particular thing. But they needed to see how you act and what you do, because we can preach all we want, but, they see what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And part of that is also, you can never use your kids as an excuse. I would leave this job except I have kids. I would do this except I have kids.
Yeah.
Well, what's that said? But this parenting thing, right? You know it.
Yeah.
It's incredibly humbling.
Yeah.
There's so much we want to do for our kids. And in the end, they got to find their own way.
Yes, absolutely. And find his way he did, young John, right?
Well, he has, right?
Yeah.
You blazed the trail, right, buddy?
Yeah, I do.
Right?
Yeah, you do.
Having fun?
Yes.
So let me talk for a minute let's talk about the business for a minute, and then we're going to jump into the big three. And so we talked about, the timeline and the series of events after John wrapped up school. He had this, this Eureka moment, as you stated it. We call it on this show, we call it a spark moment. It's that pivotal moment of your life where, when you look back at this moment, this is something that led you down a path, whether it's good or bad.
Yep.
For you, obviously good, right, John?
Yeah.
And so John's Crazy Socks, right? So, John, can you tell us a little bit about what John's Crazy Socks is?
John's Crazy Socks is, I will tell you why socks. Why socks is fun. It's colorful. I love being creative, and I always let me be me. I want to create something out of my entire life.
What's our mission at John's Crazy Socks?
Spread happiness.
Is that what we do?
Yes, we just get started because it's fun.
So, which do you think we do more of? Well, what comes first, spreading happiness or selling socks?
One of the important is spread happiness.
Right. That's
I tell her what about that? Spread happiness. This is one of our goal because I have to make people. You have to stay in mission. You have to stay in mission, and I keep smiling every time, and make people happy. And I don't want to make this perfect. And I make sure go out that way, and I make customers happy.
it's in the end, what's John's Crazy Socks, right? We are the social enterprise that's spreading happiness. We sell socks,
Right.
but the socks are just the physical manifestation of the mission. They're the physical manifestation of the spreading happiness and showing what people can do and connecting with people.
Yeah. Yeah. And John's Crazy Socks is built on 4 pillars: inspiration and hope, give back, products you can love, and make it personal, right?
Yep.
I love that. I love that. I love the social enterprise. I love that you're providing jobs for people with different abilities. I love that you're giving back. I'd love to do something here. We can talk right after we wrap up here. I'd love if we can do something where I know you guys give back, what is it, 5% to charity?
We do it in a lot of ways. We start with 5% going to the Special Olympics. 5% of what we earn goes to the Special Olympics. But we have a whole series of products that raise money for charity partners. So the first one was what? What were our first awareness socks?
Down syndrome awareness.
Down syndrome awareness socks, which John designed. And they celebrate people with Down syndrome. They let us share and recognize them, as well as they raise money, in that case for the National Down Syndrome Society and John's Old Preschool, the Association for Children with Down Syndrome. We just introduced a month ago, a little over a month ago, healthcare superhero socks.
Yep.
And what could we do during the pandemic? Well, one of the things we could do is we could recognize the people, the frontline healthcare workers. Right. So we made socks to celebrate them. They raise money for relief funds for COVID-19 healthcare workers. Half of the money goes to Good Samaritan Hospital, and half of the money goes to the American Nurses Association. So there's lots of different ways of giving back, right? We have a $5,000 Autism Can Do scholarship that we're in the midst of making the selections on right now. It's all premised on the notion that it's not enough to just sell stuff, that you got to give back.
Yeah.
Got to connect, and it's not what I used to call, and this is a little unfair, the Jane Fonda syndrome. Mm-hmm. You can't wait until you get rich and famous and then decide to develop a conscience.
Yeah.
It's got to be baked into everything you do.
Part of your DNA, right?
Yeah.
I love that. And that is, guys, check that out at johnscrazysocks.com. We'll put a link in the show notes. And if they're running any kind of special or something, we'll also link that into the show notes as well. John, you ready for the big 3?
Yeah.
Here we go. It's the big 3.
The big 3 from the Launchcast.
The big 3 is your top 3. John, I'm going to give you a couple of topics. I'm going to give you a few topics, and you're going to give me your top 3 for each one. Ready?
All right.
Okay, ready. First one's a good one. Give me your top 3 favorite things about working with your dad.
I love working with my dad because he's my roommate and he's my partner. He's my roommate, my partner, and my buddy.
Well, what are 3 different things, if there are 3 things, that you like about working with me?
I three things I like working with my dad. I love working with my dad. It is so much fun. I had this dinner with my dad, and I love I love my dad.
What things do you like doing together in the business?
Together?
Yeah. What things do we do you like doing together?
We like to home deliveries.
You like doing home deliveries, okay?
I like about podcasts.
You like doing interviews and things, right?
And I like about speaking engagement.
You like speaking engagements.
Sorry, Dad.
You don't have to be sorry to me.
I love it. I'll take it. Okay, John, next one. This is a good one. This is a good one because this is fans of John's Crazy Socks or new fans. They're going to love to hear this because hopefully they'll go out and buy these. But what are your 3 favorite socks that you've made there?
Yeah, my 3 favorite socks is Down syndrome superhero socks.
Down syndrome superhero.
I want my design. I love those ones. My second one I like. It's Saturday.
Go ahead. You can share. Tell them. What ones you wear every Saturday?
Poop emoji socks.
Poop emoji socks. Yes. Poop emoji socks. I love it.
And what other ones do you like?
Something I class sock. I never wear it at work. I don't wear underwear.
I don't wear underwear. You wear those. Actually, George, I'm surprised he gave you an answer because he never likes picking favorites. And he's always wearing different ones.
I love it. Okay, John, this is a little bit of a tough one. Can you name 3? It doesn't have to be your 3 favorite. Just 3 things, 3 important things that you've accomplished in your life. Like accomplishments in your life, big accomplishments.
What achievements do you think you had?
My goal, like I was speaking, like.
Well, things that you've already done.
Already done.
Yeah, things you've already done. Were there awards that you've won or things that you've done that have made you really happy?
Yeah, I am so happy. I won. I like that. EY.
You like the EY Entrepreneur of the Year?
Yeah, I like that one.
That's a pretty good one.
That's a good one.
And I like. Oh, I know. One. I like that proclamations. A really big certificate.
Certificate. The proclamations. You've
Oh,
received
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of proclamations from elected officials.
Those are cool.
You like getting those?
I like those. Something I like.
What?
Testifying.
You like testifying before Congress?
Yeah, I love testifying because it's fun. I want to go down to DC.
You like all that?
Because it's fun because I stand up right because I go representing down this room and representing my business and the big thing is to my police and my and doing disability.
George, I can tell you that John, you ask about big achievements, and he's excited about winning a race in the Special Olympics, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that impresses people, John likes, but he just takes it as it is.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple of examples. We've done some things with EY, with Ernst & Young.
Yep.
And they asked us to speak at a townwide meeting they were having last December, about 3,500 people in this meeting hall.
Yep.
And we're waiting to go on, and Carmine DeCibio, who is the CEO, worldwide CEO for Ernst & Young, comes in. Now, we've met him before. He knows John. He knows us. But you could see, this is the CEO of a company with 250,000 employees. Yeah. He comes walking in, and you could see everybody is kind of kowtowing to him. And then there's John. Hey, Carmine, how are you? He's just another guy.
I love
it. And some of it's because of that. John has a perspective on things that in the end is very human. And it's enlightening for the rest of us. I know it. I know I keep learning from it. Plus, we get opportunities here. We're so fortunate for them, but it creates responsibilities. So I'll share an anecdote with you.
Yeah.
We're down in D.C. We're testifying that day before the House Small Business Committee on employing people with different abilities. And we get a phone call here in the office from a customer in Houston who says, my mom works on Capitol Hill, and I see Mark and John are there. Do you think it would be possible for my mother to meet them? Well, give us the information. We'll get it down to them, and they'll see if we can do it. Who is Mom? Mom is Nancy Pelosi. So we now have a meeting with Nancy Pelosi, and you are meeting with a powerful person. It's just in the whole way everything is set up.
Yeah.
And we come in, and what people forget is she's a grandmother.
Yeah.
She's loving John. She's very sweet. She's bringing out photos of socks that she gave to former President Bush, George H.W. Bush, because John had become sock buddies with the former president and had also given and in fact, exchanged socks with them.
Yeah.
So that's all very nice. And who wouldn't like that? It is very special, and we get the photographs. But, Ms. Pelosi, we're here to talk about repealing Section 14C of the Fair Labor Act of 1938 because it allows people with a disability to be paid less than minimum wage. And there are 400,000 people in this country today being paid as little as 5 cents an hour. And so we're glad we got to meet you and talk about these socks, but we got to talk about changing that law.
Yeah.
And those are the opportunities we get, but you can see how it then becomes an obligation.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Guys, I want to thank you for this. I know this got heavy at times. This is something that I really wanted to dive in today. Because honestly, it's like we talked about before. If somebody finds this interview online, they listen to this podcast, and it can make a difference for them, it could really show them a path to changing their lives. That's what we're trying to do here. So I want to thank you, first of all, for your honesty, both of you. So it's so appreciated.
We hear that, and I wonder who are people hanging out with that's dishonest. But to a degree, John has no guile.
Yeah.
And I'm too old to care. This is just us.
Yeah. Well, it's when you put a lot of time into creating a platform to help move people, it can be disappointing when somebody comes in with an agenda and is really just not being honest about their journeys. And so, an interview like this, it's so important to share something like this. And I think it'll help a lot of people. So I want to thank you guys for being here. John, thank you for not only being here, but for being you, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I ask you one favor?
Yes.
So did you hear my woo in the beginning during my intro?
I heard.
Can you give me a woo that I can use on social media? Like a loud one. Mine is like this. I get right up to the mic and I go, woo! Can you give me one of those?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Woo!
That's what I'm talking about. Guys, John, Mark, thank you so much for being here. This was an honor. Really was.
Well, thank you. And George, if there's something we can do to help you, let us know. Here we are. We are one building away from Farmingdale.
Awesome.
So.
Give me 2 seconds to wrap up here, and then we'll chat. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Launchcast. This will be live every Monday morning. Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart. You know the deal. See you next week, guys.
Launch sequence terminated.
Into the black hole.
Thanks for listening to the Launchcast today. Please make sure to subscribe to this feed wherever podcasts are available. Follow me, George Andriopoulos, at Launchpad CEO on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And make sure to visit our website, guys, thelaunchcast.com. Looking forward to the next episode. See you soon, guys.